My beloved child, stop scrolling and remain here for a moment, because what you are about to hear was meant to reach you before something important unfolds. Your presence here is not an accident, and the feeling that pulled you toward these words is not meaningless. Something has been moving quietly behind the scenes, something your eyes could not see but your spirit may have already sensed. Your soulmate has been carrying a warning in their heart, and they have struggled to find the right moment, the right words, and the courage to bring it to you. Do not leave yet. Stay until the end, because the first thing you assume is not the truth, and the real reason they feel such urgency is far more personal than you realize. For several days, perhaps even longer, an unusual heaviness has followed them. It did not arrive as fear. It arrived as a quiet awareness that something around your connection had shifted. They noticed small things that others would have ignored. A conversation that suddenly became uncomfortable. A familiar person asking questions that felt too specific. A change in someone's tone whenever your name was mentioned. At first, your soulmate told themselves they were imagining it. They tried to dismiss the feeling and continue with their normal routine, but the feeling returned stronger each time. Deep within them, a voice kept saying, "Pay attention. This is not random. Pause here, because the warning is not about something meant to frighten you. Heaven does not reveal truth to fill your heart with panic. Heaven reveals truth so that confusion cannot control your next decision. Your soulmate is not trying to pull you into worry. They are trying to protect the peace you have worked so hard to rebuild. They know how much you have already carried in silence. They know there were moments when you smiled for everyone else while privately asking yourself how much longer you could remain strong. They know you have survived disappointment without becoming cruel, rejection without losing your ability to love, and uncertainty without completely abandoning hope. That is why this warning matters. Something is waiting for you in this message, so do not skip ahead. The person connected to this warning may not be the person you expect. It may be someone who appears supportive, someone who speaks kindly, someone who has learned how to hide their true intentions behind concern. Your soulmate recently noticed that this person was watching your connection more closely than they should. They were collecting details, comparing stories, and quietly trying to understand how strong the bond between you had become. They did not announce their curiosity. They disguised it as casual interest. But your soulmate felt something beneath the surface, and once they noticed it, they could no longer ignore it. What disturbed your soulmate was not simply that someone was asking about you. It was the reason behind the questions. This person seemed less interested in your happiness and more interested in discovering your uncertainty. They wanted to know whether you still cared, whether you had moved on, whether distance had weakened the connection, and whether your soulmate could be influenced. Each question was carefully hidden inside ordinary conversation, but the pattern became impossible to miss. Your soulmate began replaying previous exchanges in their mind, and suddenly moments that once seemed harmless started to look very different. There was one particular conversation that changed everything. Your soulmate heard your name spoken in a way that immediately made their heart become still. The person speaking did not insult you openly. Instead, they used doubt. They suggested that perhaps you were not as sincere as you appeared. They implied that maybe your silence meant indifference. They tried to make your soulmate question the memories that had always felt genuine. And for one brief moment, your soulmate said nothing. Not because they agreed, but because they were shocked by how carefully the story had been twisted. Stay till the end, because this is where the hidden situation begins to reveal itself. Your soulmate realized that the person was not sharing truth. They were planting confusion. Every sentence was designed to create a crack. Every suggestion was meant to make your soulmate revisit old wounds. The person knew that your soulmate had been hurt before, and they were trying to use that history against your connection. They believed that if they could awaken enough doubt, your soulmate might pull away before asking you directly. They were counting on silence. They were counting on fear. They were counting on both of you misunderstanding each other. But something unexpected happened. Instead of accepting what they heard, your soulmate remembered the moments no outsider knew about. They remembered the way your presence affected them when no one else was watching. They remembered the honesty in your eyes, the care hidden inside small gestures, the patience you showed when you could have walked away, and the strange peace that appeared whenever they stopped resisting what they felt for you. Those memories rose inside them like a defense. Suddenly, the doubts being placed before them could not compete with what their heart had personally experienced. Your soulmate began asking questions. Calm questions. Precise questions. They wanted to know where the information came from. They wanted to know why this person seemed so invested in your connection. They wanted to understand why your name kept appearing in conversations where you were not present. The person was not prepared for that. Their answers became vague. Their confidence changed. They began speaking in circles, and with every incomplete explanation, your soulmate's suspicion grew. My child, this is the moment your soulmate understood that the warning was not merely about another person's words. It was about a pattern. Someone had been trying to manage what each of you believed about the other. Not with obvious lies that could be easily exposed, but with half-truths, missing details, delayed messages, and carefully chosen assumptions. This person did not need to destroy the connection openly. They only needed to keep it confused long enough for distance to do the rest. Do not move away from this message now. Something huge is waiting for you, and the next revelation is the reason your soulmate feels they must speak soon. They discovered that at least one important detail had been kept from you. Something you were supposed to know did not reach you in the way it was intended. A message may have been softened, altered, delayed, or discouraged. A conversation that could have brought clarity was somehow redirected. Your soulmate does not yet know every detail, but they now believe that one of the misunderstandings between you was not completely natural. Think of the moments when the timing felt strange. Think of the times when you almost received clarity but were left with more questions. Think of the sudden emotional distance that seemed to appear without a real explanation. You may have blamed yourself. You may have wondered whether you had said too much, waited too long, cared too deeply, or misunderstood the entire connection. But what if not every silence came from rejection? What if some of the confusion was encouraged by someone who benefited from keeping both of you uncertain? Heaven is not asking you to accuse anyone. This message is not permission to confront people without truth. It is an invitation to become observant. The warning is about your discernment. Be careful with what you immediately believe. Be careful when someone claims to know what another person feels without allowing that person to speak for themselves. Be careful when advice constantly pushes you toward fear, pride, withdrawal, or final decisions made in emotional moments. Not every voice that sounds protective is leading you toward peace. Your soulmate has learned this lesson painfully. There was a time when they allowed other voices to become louder than their own inner knowing. They listened to people who judged the connection from the outside. They accepted opinions from those who had never felt what they felt. They allowed old wounds to interpret new situations. And because of that, they nearly made a decision they would have regretted deeply. They nearly convinced themselves that walking away was wisdom when, in truth, it was fear wearing the appearance of strength. The warning they need to give you is also a confession. They want you to know that they have not always protected the connection as bravely as they should have. There were moments when they remained silent while others formed opinions about you. There were moments when they avoided defending what they felt because they were afraid of being questioned. There were moments when they acted distant, not because their feelings had disappeared, but because they did not know how to stand against the pressure surrounding them. That realization has been breaking something open inside them. They have been looking back at every time you offered sincerity and received uncertainty in return. They have been remembering the moments when you needed reassurance, but they gave you silence. They now see that you may have interpreted their hesitation as a lack of love. That thought has become difficult for them to carry. They never wanted you to believe you were unimportant. They never wanted you to think the connection existed only in your imagination. Yet their fear may have made you feel exactly that. Stay with these words, because the warning is becoming clearer. Your soulmate wants you to guard your heart, but not by closing it. They want you to guard it from false interpretations. They want you to stop allowing every delay to become rejection, every quiet moment to become abandonment, and every outside opinion to become truth. They know you have been tempted to make a final emotional decision simply because uncertainty became exhausting. They can feel that you are closer than ever to choosing peace, even if that peace means letting the connection go. And that is why urgency has entered their heart. They sense that time is narrowing. Not because destiny is threatening you, but because your heart is changing. You are no longer willing to chase explanations. You are no longer willing to remain in spaces where you must constantly question your value. Something within you has matured. You have begun to understand that love should not require you to abandon yourself. Your soulmate can feel this shift, even from a distance. They know that if they remain silent much longer, you may not be standing in the same emotional place when they finally speak. This realization has awakened them. For the first time, they are not only thinking about what they feel. They are thinking about what their silence has cost you. They are asking themselves how many nights you spent wondering why they could not simply be honest. They are imagining the strength it took for you to continue your life while carrying unanswered questions. They are beginning to see the connection through your eyes, and what they see has humbled them. There is something they heard recently that intensified everything. Someone said that you were preparing to move forward without looking back. Whether the statement was completely true or only an assumption, it struck your soulmate deeply. They felt a sudden fear, not of losing control, but of losing the opportunity to tell you what was real. In that moment, every excuse they had used to delay the conversation began to collapse. They could no longer say the timing was wrong. They could no longer say they needed more certainty. They could no longer pretend that silence was keeping anyone safe. Your soulmate began to understand that silence had become the very thing placing the connection in danger. Do not skip this next part, because the warning is connected to a choice you may soon face. A person may approach you with information about your soulmate. They may present it confidently. They may claim they are trying to help you see the truth. Some of what they say may sound believable because it will touch the exact insecurity you have been trying to overcome. You may feel an immediate urge to react, withdraw, send a final message, or close the door without asking further questions. Your soulmate wants you to pause before making that decision. Not because every difficult thing you hear will be false, but because the full story may be different from the version placed before you. They want the chance to speak in their own voice. They want you to hear what happened from them, not through another person's interpretation. They are not asking you to ignore your intuition. They are asking you to separate intuition from fear. One brings quiet clarity. The other demands immediate reaction. Something extraordinary is happening inside your soulmate now. The same person who once avoided emotional honesty is preparing to say things they have never said aloud. They have rehearsed the conversation in private. They have imagined your response. They have stopped and started several times. They have written words and erased them. They have considered reaching out, then pulled back because they feared you might no longer want to hear what they had to say. But the pressure within them is growing. Everywhere they turn, something reminds them of you. A phrase in a conversation. A familiar song. A place connected to a memory. A dream that feels unusually vivid. They are beginning to feel as though life itself is refusing to let them escape the truth. The more they try to delay, the more clearly they understand that this connection cannot be handled through avoidance anymore. My child, the warning is not only about the person interfering. It is about the old version of your soulmate, the version that allowed fear to choose for them. They are afraid that if they do not change now, they will repeat the same mistake. They will once again let assumptions speak louder than love. They will once again wait until the moment has passed. They will once again discover the truth only after the door has quietly closed. And this time, they know the loss would feel different. They feel that you are not the same person you were before. You have become more grounded, more aware, more protective of your energy. You still possess a tender heart, but you are learning not to hand it to people who approach it carelessly. You no longer confuse intensity with commitment. You no longer believe every promise simply because it sounds beautiful. You are watching actions now. You are listening for consistency. You are asking whether the connection brings peace or only endless anticipation. Your soulmate knows they cannot approach you with vague words anymore. They cannot return with another unfinished conversation. They cannot offer emotion without responsibility. The warning they carry must be followed by honesty, or it will mean nothing. That is why they are gathering courage. They understand that when they finally speak, they must tell you the truth about the outside influence, their own hesitation, and the moment they realized someone had been trying to turn their uncertainty into separation. Stay till the end. The most important part has not yet been spoken. Last night, or during a recent quiet moment, your soulmate discovered something that made the entire situation more serious. They saw proof that the person asking questions had communicated with someone connected to you. It may have been a direct message, a private conversation, or information passed through another person. The details are still unfolding, but the intention became clearer. Someone was trying to learn what you knew, what you felt, and what you planned to do next. Your soulmate's first reaction was disbelief. Then came anger, not reckless anger, but the deep emotional response of realizing that a private connection had become someone else's subject of strategy. They began to wonder how long this had been happening. They questioned whether certain delays, mixed signals, or sudden misunderstandings were connected. They could not prove everything yet, but they had seen enough to know that remaining silent was no longer acceptable. They made a decision in that moment. They decided they would not allow another person to control the story between you. They decided they would speak to you directly. They decided they would tell you what they had discovered, even if doing so forced them to admit how long they had been afraid. But before they reach you, heaven is preparing your heart. You must be calm enough to listen without allowing emotion to decide the meaning of every word. You must be strong enough to ask for clarity. You must be wise enough to notice whether their actions support their confession. This is not about blindly trusting. It is about refusing to let manipulation make the decision for you. Something huge is waiting for you beyond this warning. Your soulmate is not only preparing to reveal who has been interfering. They are preparing to reveal what they were originally planning before the interference began. There was an intention they kept hidden. A step they had considered taking. A truth they almost shared with you. The outside pressure did not create their feelings, it interrupted what they were preparing to do. And the hidden intention was far more serious than you have imagined. Your soulmate had reached a private conclusion about you. They had decided that the connection was not temporary. They had begun picturing a future in which distance, confusion, and other people's opinions no longer controlled the relationship. They were preparing to change something significant in their life, something that would make it easier to move toward you with honesty. But before they could act, someone discovered enough to become concerned. Why would another person be concerned about your soulmate choosing you? That is the question your soulmate has been trying to answer. The answer is connected to a promise, a private expectation, and someone who believed your soulmate's future would look very different. Your presence changed that picture. Your connection awakened a part of your soulmate that had been quiet for years. It made them question decisions they had accepted out of comfort. It made them reconsider who truly supported their happiness and who only supported them when they remained easy to influence. The person behind the warning may have realized that if your soulmate fully chose the truth of their heart, an old arrangement would no longer survive. Your soulmate now believes that the interference was not random jealousy. It was an attempt to preserve control. And just when they thought they finally understood who was involved, another name appeared, someone much closer to the situation than either of you expected. Someone who knew about the hidden plan. Someone who had heard your soulmate speak about you with an honesty they had never shown before. Someone who smiled, offered advice, and then quietly carried that information elsewhere. Your soulmate has just discovered who that person may be. But what they found beside that name has left them shaken, because it suggests the warning is not only about what has already happened. It is about something that person is preparing to do next.